All right, everyone, we are 1 week away from the Premier League starting, which means we need to make our predictions. Who's going to win the league? Who is going to get relegated? Who's going to win the Golden Boot, Golden Glove, and Young Player of this season? Now, let's first start talking about relegation. Now, there are a lot of teams, I think, this season that are going to be close to relegation. I actually think both sides of the table are going to be very close. The middle of the table, there's going to be a huge gap. But relegation, there's quite a few teams I'm looking at this season. Now, at number 20, which again might be shocking, I may look at this at the end of the season and wonder what the heck I was thinking. But number 20, I have Wolves. Now, you may think, why Wolves of all teams? But last season showed you that this team was struggling, and they lost Ruben Neves, who's going to be a big player that they did not really fill that role back in. Because they lost him, they're going to struggle in the midfield. They're not going to be able to score goals, and therefore, again, are not going to win a whole lot of games. And just the whole season is going to be all over the place, and they are not going to get a lot of points this season. And therefore, again, they are going to finish in 20th. Now, right after them, I have Sheffield United. They are one of the teams that did get promoted this past season from the Championship up into the Premier League. I really haven't seen much from them that I think are going to warrant them to win anything big matches. They may win a few games here and there against the smaller clubs, but still, overall, they are going to be lacking the points that they need to stay up this season. And the last team that, again, this may be shocking because of all the teams you're thinking that this club should stay up, but I have Everton. The last two seasons have been very lucky, I'll say, for Everton. They've just barely survived relegation the past two seasons. I think the third season right now is going to be the season that they go down. They are not investing money into the club. They are not really doing anything different. The managers, this is just a club that has been struggling as of lately, and I think this season is going to be finally the one that actually puts them down, which again is quite surprising because that means that on top of them, Luton is going to stay up, which again, I know a lot of people are saying this team is not going to win anything. They are going to be almost like Derby County when they came up back in 2009, 10, something like that. But I actually think that this team is going to be a very hard team to beat at home. They're not going to win a lot of games away, but when they play at home, I think the atmosphere, this smaller stadium that they have, is going to be very difficult for teams to come in and actually get 3 points from them. And because of that, I actually think that they are going to survive and stay in the Premier League, which again, this right now, making this prediction seems very bold. We will see at the end of the season how this goes. But again, I may watch this and be, what was I even thinking? Now, after them, then, I have Fulham, Crystal Palace. These two teams also have been struggling. I think they'll survive relegation, but they are also in that mix. So again, these other three teams are just above the relegation zone, are all going to be very close. It's probably going to come down to the last couple of weeks with all these clubs, and therefore, again, some of these managers, they may get fired throughout the season, and because of that, that can fluctuate these teams. But I think Fulham, being the team that they are, should be able to survive. Crystal Palace, same thing. Yes, they have lost a few players, but overall, both these sides have fairly a decent side. They did fairly well last season. Again, I think that's going to transition into this upcoming season. Now, after Crystal Palace, this is where it's up in the air. I think the middle of the table, so many things can happen. I think Bournemouth, West Ham, and even Burnley are going to be in the next three positions in that order. West Ham, I could see, though, dropping a little bit more because they do have Europa League now. David Moyes, yes, did win the conference last year with West Ham. They did lose Declan Rice, which again is going to be a massive blow to this club, but if they're able to invest some of that money into some other players yet, the window is still open. They should be okay, but still, this is a team that could struggle as well with the extra games, especially, again, with Europa. That's so close to then the weekend, so some players might be fatigued, may pick up injuries, and therefore, again, we could see West Ham slide quite a bit as well. Bournemouth, again, they're not a team that really shocked me too well. They don't have superstars, but again, they're not at the bottom of the league, and therefore, again, where they're sitting at roughly around 14th position seems fair for them. And then, like I said, Burnley, I have nothing to say about them. They're a fairly decent side. They play defensively. They hit you on the counterattack. And again, they're going to lose a lot of games, but they're also going to win some of the smaller games that they should win. And also just scrape by and get some draws against some of the other clubs, which again will get them into the middle of the table. Now, after that, 11 through, I would say even 11 through the 6th position, this, again, same thing, could go in any direction because if momentum goes for the right club, this, again, could see a club go a little bit higher up, or could see them drop down. Now, I have at 11th Nottingham Forest. Now, yes, I understand Nottingham was a very close team to get relegated last season, but I think because of what was happening, they brought so many players in last year, it was very difficult to make every other player gel together. But because now they have a season under the belt, some of that nervousness is gone, but they've had more time to actually form as a team. And I think they're actually going to be pretty solid this season, which again is going to be quite shocking. I think some teams are not going to realize how good they're going to be, and therefore, again, they're going to be fairly up in the table itself. After them, at 10th, Brighton. I think same thing with Brighton, like I said about West Ham. Having more games this season is going to be very difficult. If they lose Moise Caicedo, that's also going to be challenging. They lost McAllister ready to Liverpool. So again, their team is being dissected, and therefore De Zerbi may have a hard time keeping his momentum, tempo, and everything at this club, and therefore, again, might be very difficult. But overall, Brighton still are a fairly solid team. I think even if they bring some younger players in, or again, transfer some players in still, they will be fine. It's just like I said, with his tactics, it's sometimes very difficult, and it's a big risk and high reward, but sometimes it does not work out, which we saw them lose to Everton last year. I think it was a 4-0 or something along those lines. So again, there are the chances that teams can hit them on the counterattack, and therefore, again, I think smaller clubs will beat them, which is why they won't be higher up in the table itself. Now, again, from there then, we're looking at possibly Tottenham. I think Tottenham, yes, they have a new manager. This all really depends on how quickly they can transition into his tactics. Also with Harry Kane, because Harry Kane right now, I think he will stay at Tottenham. We will talk about him in a little bit. But I think he will stay, and therefore, again, Tottenham will do decently, but their defense is lacking. They haven't really secured the defense line, and because of that, they're going to still leak a lot of goals, and therefore, again, not going to win games that they should be winning. They will score goals, but again, they're going to let up so many goals, which is why I have them sitting at 9th. Then from there, I have Brentford. I think Brentford, again, is a solid team. They're a team that really pushes any team. Doesn't matter if it's Manchester City, Arsenal, United. Again, they can play with any club. They will be missing Ivan Toney in the first part of the season, which is why I have him in this position. If he was going to play for the full season, I actually could see Brentford even pushing in the top 6. But because he's going to be out for half the season, I have him sitting there. Granted, they could have someone else come in and start banging goals for them. But overall, they are a fairly good team. I think they're going to sit fairly well this season, but they will struggle a few games here and there. From there, Aston Villa, number 7. Emery has done a phenomenal job. I think he could push this team into the top 4, but top 4 is going to be very difficult. And even being in 7th position is not the best position to be, but it's still a good position for Aston Villa, and I think this will be a right spot for them. Yes, Emery did have a phenomenal season once he came into Aston Villa, really turned it around once he took over for Steven Gerrard, but still, there are some clubs that I think are going to be better than them this season because all these other teams, like I'm about to talk about, have just completely changed their systems, have improved so much more, and therefore, again, they're going to be difficult to beat on the road or even when they come to play at Aston Villa. Again, they're going to lose some games at home, and therefore, again, they're going to drop some points as well. From there, 6, I have Newcastle. Yes, Newcastle, I don't think they will finish in the top 4 back-to-back seasons. Having championship, I think there's going to be a huge problem for them, but also with them adding stoppage time, that is going to be a huge difference for Newcastle and Eddie Howe's system because they're one of the teams that wasted a lot of time this past season, and therefore, again, because there's going to be so much more extra time, I think Newcastle is going to get gassed a lot of the games and lose a lot of matches in the dying minutes, and therefore, again, they're going to lose those games and drop points, but again, they're still a good team, and I can see them winning a lot of games, but on top of having the championship, I think it's going to be a little difficult because they're going to have to rotate players as well. Could pick up some injuries and, again, be a little bit challenging. From there, then, 5th position, I have Arsenal, which, yes, I understand Arsenal did push Manchester City to the brink of almost winning it, and then they just completely collapsed. Arsenal, same thing I was just saying about Newcastle. Champions League, I think, is going to take a toll on the players. And I think Arteta, yes, has the right system, but same thing. The squad itself, they don't have the mentality to push really farther into the season, and therefore, again, I think they're going to struggle. Yes, I could see them still finishing the top 4, but right now I have them at 5th. Which means then I have United at number 4. I think this is a team, though, that could actually compete for the title this season. I just think with a few of the different changes coming in, it might take a little bit for them to integrate all these players in, and therefore, again, they may lose some easy games in the beginning of the season, which could be detrimental for the final parts of the season. But if they get things ticking right away, I could easily see them competing for the title itself with some of the other clubs. Number 3 is my club, Chelsea. I'm probably being a little bit biased here because I'm putting him at number 3. I obviously wanted to put him at number 1, but let's be realistic. They're not winning the Premier League this season, but they will in the next couple of seasons. But really, what Pochettino is going to be doing at this club with the players, yes, I understand they're a little bit younger, but we do not have Champions League. We do not have Europa or Conference. All we have is the Premier League, FA Cup, and League Cup. Therefore, again, we can just solely focus on the Premier League itself, and because of that, we should be having all our players fully fit for almost the whole season. If you remember with Conte, we did the same thing and actually won the Premier League. I think Pochettino is going to be doing very well this season with these younger players. The big thing is, as long as we can score goals, we can win matches. If we cannot, it's going to be like last season. Again, you're going to be struggling for the season. Number 2, this is where it gets a toss-up. Like I said, I think it's going to be a fairly close title race this season. Again, I think United could be closer. Chelsea might be there as well. But number 2, I have Manchester City. I think they are going to have a little bit of this, lullaby slash like hangover from last season, because after winning trouble, they're not going to have the motivation to again go out and just be completely dominant and keep working the way they did last season. And because of that, I think they're going to fall just short. They may still win a few titles, whether that's the FA Cup, League Cup, but I do not see them winning the Premier League this upcoming season, because I see Liverpool, of all the teams, which again, I do not really want to say that Liverpool is going to win it, but with how poor their season was last year, and now they incorporate some new players. Yes, they still have to get maybe 1 or 2 signings, but I think they still will get those signings. But they still, came back, and Jurgen Klopp, great manager, gets the best of his players. They score goals all the time. It was their defense that was lacking. If they can tighten up that defense, and I believe once they changed their system to 3 in the back, 2, 5, they had the most points in the last, 2 months of the Premier League season. And because of that, I could see them going out and just terrorizing teams right at the beginning and just really setting a pace like they did last time when they won the Premier League. Like I said, it's going to be very close between Manchester City and Liverpool, but overall, I think both those teams are going to compete, but Liverpool, I think, is going to just edge them out just slightly. Again, going to be close, but I think Liverpool will win this season, which, again, as a Chelsea fan, I don't want to see, but at the same time, I also don't want to see Manchester City win it either. So let's talk about Golden Boot, because this is one that I think is also going to be kind of a hot topic. I believe if Harry Kane stays, he will win the Golden Boot this season. Yes, I know Erling Haaland banged so many goals last year, but I think people are forgetting how great Harry Kane was last year. He was right behind Erling Haaland at Tottenham. Again, I know I mentioned how Tottenham are going to struggle this season, but Harry Kane can score goals left and right. Doesn't matter. It's their defense that's lacking. Because of that, I think Harry Kane may bang about 25-ish goals. I think Haaland will do about the same, and I think they're going to be neck and neck. But overall, I think Harry Kane will win it this season. Again, it's probably going to be 1 or 2 goal differential between the two. If not, it is going to be Erling Haaland. Let's be real here. The guy is a goal-scoring machine. Then we're going to talk about the Golden Glove. This one I've gone back and forth and thought about, but it has to go to, I think, Nick Pope. I think Newcastle still, they're rock-solid defense. Yes, I understand Ederson is rock solid as a goalkeeper as well, but Nick Pope just does phenomenal as the goalkeeper. His defense in front of him is very tight, and Eddie Howe, like I said, they have this high pressure, and I think overall they're going to have the most clean sheets, which is why I'm going to see him get the Golden Glove. Yes, I understand I don't have Newcastle in the top 4, but still, I think he's going to win it. And then the last thing we need to talk about is the young player of the season, and this one I've gone back and forth, but obviously I'm going to go with a Chelsea player, because let's be real here. There's so many great Chelsea players out there, and I think the player that is going to win it is going to be Mudryk this year. I think Mudryk is going to have the capability of the reasons why we signed him last season. I know he's gotten a lot of hate last season, but last season for Chelsea was absolutely atrocious. I think this upcoming season for him will be phenomenal. Again, I think Chelsea are going to do great under Pochettino. I think Mudryk is going to light the league on fire with his pace. And again, once he starts scoring goals, people are going to realize why Chelsea paid the amount that they did for him. So that is what we have for our predictions for the 2023-2024 Premier League season. Comment down below what you think about this. If you think I'm completely crazy, which again, I'm sure I am with some of these predictions. But like I said, when you look at this at the end of the season, who knows where we'll be at? Like I said, I'm sure some of these teams that I predicted to get relegated are probably going to be in the top 10, but who cares? Like I said, this is just a fun video that I wanted to do to, again, see where we're at with predictions. So that is all I have for you. If you did enjoy this video, please give this a video like, subscribe if you have not. Again, I greatly appreciate it, but that is it. And we'll get back to talking to Chelsea news after this video. So I will see you in our next video.